Richard, Nickel. We're here at Pittsburgh Modular booth, Superbooth, and you've got a new system to show us, right?
We do. We're showing off the Voltage Research Laboratory. Just debuted it yesterday. We started a Kickstarter for it, actually, and 9 hours into the Kickstarter, it was fully funded. So we're pretty anxious and pretty excited about this. People seem to dig it. This is our new sort of experimental synthesizer where we've done the SV1 and the SV1 Black Box, which is a very East Coast style system. This system is from the West Coast, and it's very experimental, and it really is open to just diving in and searching around. We called it the Voltage Research Lab because we wanted the user to really have a sense of exploration, a sense of like they're really digging in there and doing some sonic research. In addition to sort of the name and the concept of it, we have added quite a bit of new analog technology to it. The primary oscillator has a new warp circuit in it that runs before the wave folder, and that allows us to fold previously unfoldable waveforms. So waveforms with high harmonic content like square waves and saw waves that previously didn't work very well through a wave folder because they would end up maybe sounding a little phasey, but there really wasn't much there. What we do now is we can change the shape of that wave without changing the harmonic content. So a square still sounds like a square, just looks a little bit different, but then when you throw it through a wave folder, it just goes totally bananas. So you end up with sort of high harmonic content being multiplied to even higher harmonic content to give some really amazing sounds. If you think of like a Roland super saw, this would be sort of like a super square kind of vibe to it. I could give a little bit of an audio demo here. So this is what we're listening to now is the saw wave going through this warp circuit and through the wave folder. You can hear how gummy and chewy that is. It's just big and beefy sounding. And those sounds weren't possible before, but because we're reshaping it before it goes through the wave folder, we get these whole new set of sounds. If I switch to the square wave here, you can hear as I sweep through, it just sounds like it kind of goes in and out of phase. It's not terribly interesting. Doesn't work that well, but we'll turn on the warp circuit and it's just crazy harmonics. And that's a circuit that we've developed over the past year. It came out really, really well. So what you essentially get is almost like an analog wavetable effect because you can sweep through the waveforms then using CV. So doing that, you do get this sort of wavetable-y type effect. It's not a traditional wavetable in the sense, but that's what it kind of sounds like as you sweep through them.
So talk us through what exactly is in the research lab.
Well, I talked about the oscillators already. We also have MIDI and arpeggiator, so it is a full MIDI capable with a built-in arpeggiator. The secondary oscillator is a much simpler oscillator, but you do have a sine wave or the alpha wave out. What the alpha wave is that's going to give you from a triangle wave to a square wave. And that's voltage controllable, that wave shaping as well. There's two function generators with a Unison Mode, and what the Unison Mode is that kind of links them together. It gives you some pseudo quadrature effects, or it allows them to interact. So you can trigger the second one at the end of the attack of the first, at the end of the release, or both, or in some really interesting ways. Those are all fully voltage controllable. Another new technology we built into this is the dynamics controllers. It comes with two dynamics controllers. We've used this circuit before. It's in our microvolts. It's in our dynamic filter Eurorack module, but we sort of took it to the next level this year. We've added a new resonance circuit, so the filter in it is fully resonant. And the dynamics before, on the microvolt, there was no voltage control over the dynamic response. We've added voltage control over the response now. So what essentially you have is voltage control over which Vactrol you're using, the length of the Vactrol of that low-pass gate pluck. You can have it real short and and plucky or real long and kind of tubby, and you can voltage control anywhere in between that, which is something you've never been able to do before either. It sounds really, really amazing. At the end of the signal chain that we have our analog delay. This is based on our analog replicator Eurorack module, but again, we sort of stepped back and said, what works best for this system? So we really redid most of the circuitry in it. We've made it brighter, we've made it cleaner, because that seems like it treated this system better. And of course you have voltage control over the delay time as well. There's a lot of sort of random built in. There's no sort of one specific random section, but what we have is sort of sprinkled throughout as different bits of random outputs. One of the outputs is a 6-stage shift register, with the idea that it's sort of cycling through these 6 stages almost like a sequence, but randomly every time the next stage is triggered, it may change the output. So what you get is these evolving patterns, these evolving sequences that are not necessarily 100% random every time, but very chaotic and very musical. We also have, your sample and hold and your noise. The MIDI has a random mode as well. You can do a random sequence, or it'll do full random range. So there is quite a bit of that West Coast randomness built into just the Voltage Lab module itself.
So the system that we're looking at here is 2 different modules, right?
This system is two main modules and then sort of a small utility module. So we've talked about the Voltage Lab so far. That's the voice module. On the lower level here, we have the touch controller, and this is another new module for us. This one is, again, a very West Coast inspired controller. So we have 10 touchpads split into 2 groups of 5. You can see this one is right now running in duophonic mode, so there's 2 little sequences running on it. Each touchpad has on-off, obviously, and you have a Y-axis control as well, which is a CV output, and then you have 2 assignable output voltages that go from 0 to 5 volts. So each section, left and right, has an A output, a B output, and then a Y-axis output. And then we also have an all output, which is the sum of all of them. So in monophonic mode, it would be, you could use the whole keyboard and the all out, or in duophonic mode, you're going to get the sum of the left and the right-hand sides. This also has built-in sequencers, built-in clock dividers, but the idea for this was really instant gratification. We wanted it to be a very interactive controller because this whole machine was designed for live performance. So we wanted it to be something that you could just start touching and start playing around with, and you're going to get instant feedback in the synthesizer. So it was designed really to augment the Voltage Lab.
So as you said, it's on a Kickstarter at the moment, and that's fully funded, and people are still able to buy it through the Kickstarter.
Absolutely. The Kickstarter, we started it yesterday. We were fully funded in 9 hours and 22 minutes. As at this point, we're funded about 150%, but everything's available now for the next 30 days, I think 29 days. You can get in on all the deals. There's some really nice price bargains if you're willing to help us kickstart this. Otherwise, it'll be available at all our Pittsburgh Modular dealers in September.
And what is the kind of price range for each of the 2?
The system itself is retailing for $15.99. The Eurorack Voltage Lab module is $8.99, and these are all US prices. The touch controller is $3.99, and we also have a black box version of the Voltage Lab. At Pittsburgh Modular, the biggest seller we have is the SV1 black box. It's our most popular product by far. People love the SV1, they love the black box format. So when we designed the Voltage Lab, we purposely made it the same form factor as the SV1. So right over here, we have the Voltage Lab black box, which is the same voice from the Voltage Research Laboratory, but it's in the black box format. This one's going to retail for $9.99 US, and that's going to be available in September as well. And these are all available on our Kickstarter right now.
Excellent. Richard, thank you very much.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.